We're in a bit of a pause in the season. There's a long gap between our last league game to our next one. We've had the FA Cup third round defeat to Cardiff in the middle, but I don't think any of us were taking it that seriously. But while we've had this gap, there's been one question, there's been one area of United's play that's been on my mind. And so I wanted to do a deep dive into Sheffield United's defence. Are we well set? How are things looking? And through this video, there will be 3 questions that we are desperately trying to answer as we go into a really important second half of the season. How good is Sheffield United's defence? How big of a loss is 𝗲𝗲𝗄? And can Jackie Longthrow and 𝗚𝗿𝗲𝗵𝗵𝗍 be relied upon to take us through the rest of the season?
Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole.
So far this season, Sheffield United have broken their own club records for defensive security so far. They went an incredible 9 games consecutively at home without conceding a goal, taking us from the first game of the season in August all the way into December. And so far, they have only conceded 17 goals in 26 games. We've kept a frankly ridiculous 15 clean sheets so far, and that is 58% of our games so far this season where we haven't conceded a goal. However, when we dig a little bit deeper, what I'm looking to find out today is, do these numbers change? When we look at the underlying numbers, is this sustainable? Are we expecting to continue with this fantastic defensive record, or do we expect that to tail off a little bit? Are we going to expect to concede more in the second half of the season? We're also going to look into how much of this fantastic defense that we've built, how much of that is based on 𝗲𝗲𝗄, his leadership, his place in the team, the fact that he himself is an absolute colossus at the back. And then with Robinson and 𝗚𝗿, we know what they were like last season. They were part of that defence in the Premier League, which conceded a record-breaking number of goals. And so we're going to look into a little bit of what it is like when those two play together. But let's go through those in order. So let's start off, first of all, by saying how good has Sheffield United's defence been so far this season? And let's go into the numbers. So it's 17 goals conceded. That's the second least goals in the league after Burnley's frankly ridiculous 9 goals that they've conceded. Burnley, for the record, are currently conceding less per game than Chelsea did in that ridiculous season under Mourinho when they only conceded 15 in a Premier League season. Burnley are on track to have a better defensive record than that Chelsea team. That's insane to me. I cannot believe how well they've done through the first half of the season. Now, when you then look at United's numbers and you think by comparison, they're almost bad. You know, they're actually incredible, but compared to Burnley's, they look bad. But let's look at this historically. Let's have a look at what United's form is. United so far this season have conceded 0.65 goals per game. That would put us on track to only concede 30 goals across the entire season, the entire 46 games we would play. The all-time record is currently 28 goals conceded in a season. That's held by 2 or 3 clubs, happening most recently with Middlesbrough in 2015-16. So United are on track to go very, very close to the greatest championship defence of all time. That's how good we've been so far this season. Take Burnley out of it, and United are a massive standout in the division for just how well our defence has been doing. Now let's look at the bit that everyone will tell me is a pseudoscience that doesn't count. Let's look at the XG just a little bit, and bear with me if you're a little bit of a skeptic, but I do think it tells a really interesting story about the quality of chances that United are conceding. Now, the XG does back up that United are one of the best defensive teams in the league. Based on the quality of chances that we've conceded, you would expect us to have conceded 24 goals so far. That would still be an excellent return at this point of the season. It would still be the 3rd best defensive record in the league in terms of the quality and number of chances that United are conceding. On average, Michael Cooper is making 2.3 saves per game. Now, that is roughly mid-table. He's facing, I think it's the 9th fewest shots in the division. So we're not protecting him and stopping him making those saves, but it's clear that because of how low the XG we're conceding is, the quality of the chances, the quality of the shots that Michael Cooper's facing aren't that high. They're saves that we would hopefully be expecting him to save. Now, as we look at his stats himself, he has prevented 4.84 goals so far this season. That is judging the quality of shots on target that he has managed to prevent resulting in a goal. That's the 5th best record in the championship. So we very clearly got one of the top goalkeepers in terms of his shot stopping and one of the best defenders in terms of not allowing a high quality of chances to go against our goal. Now, to those who have listened to me speak, to those who have listened to me in the summer, you won't be shocked to hear that the number one goalkeeper for goals prevented so far this season is Victor Johansson. He has so far prevented 9.6 goals so far this season. That is the quality of shots he's facing. You would expect him to concede 10 more than he actually has done. Once again, that is ridiculous shot stopping from the Swede, but I think we've got one better. I think Cooper, now I've seen him, we've watched him, it's his distribution, it's all the other bits. Don't want to go on about Victor because I do think Cooper is better, but that's just to put into context how good some of the keepers in the Championship are and that we've got Cooper who is also doing fantastically. Now, in terms of those goalkeepers, there are two clubs that obviously we are compared to quite a lot. Burnley, who have got a ridiculous goalkeeper in James Trafford. He's probably too good for the level. He has a better rate than Cooper. He's prevented 6.9 goals. And at the complete other side of the scale, Leeds have got a shocker. 𝗚𝗿𝗲𝗍 is nowhere near good enough. Leeds have conceded the least XG in the division and yet have conceded more goals than United, more goals than Burnley, and I think more goals than West Brom, mainly because he's just not very good. So that's where United are so far. A fantastic defensive team, one of the top 3 in division with one of the best goalkeepers in the division. That feels sustainable, doesn't it? That feels like a really good message to say that we will still be in that automatic promotion race. We will stay towards the top of this division if we can keep this defensive solidity, and it looks like we should be able to. But that brings us into question number 2, which is how important was Harry Souttar? And I'm going to do that by looking at the stats of the different defensive partners that United have played so far this season. So this is judged on when we've played 4 at the back, which has been our preferred system, and who the 2 centre-backs have been forming a partnership. I'm not going to include in this Harry Souttar and Austin Trusty because they played 1 game and it feels like a bit of a waste of time, given that neither of them are currently at the club. So we'll start off by looking at the partnership that United have used most so far this season. And that's Harry Souttar partnered with 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎. Now, when these 2 have played together, they've played a grand total of 10.5 games. That is 0.5 because 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎 got sent off at half-time against Coventry, which is a little bit of a pain in terms of trying to look at these stats. But I'll do it on the whole as if it's 10.5 games. So during their time together, when they've started for United, United have kept 8 clean sheets and conceded just 3 goals at an average of 0.29 goals per game. United also, with those 2 at the heart of defence, have never conceded more than 1 goal in a game, albeit we had the caveat in that against Coventry, we did concede 2. It's just that 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎 wasn't on the pitch for the second one because he'd already been sent off. In that time, with those 2 together at the heart of our defence, United have conceded 8.89 XG at an average of 0.85 per game. So clearly we've overperformed, but it's still a very good defensive record when you've got Souttar and 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎 together. During the time when they've played, United picked up 26 points from the 11 games they started together, and that was winning 8, drawing 2, and losing 1. Anybody wants to know, just in terms of tracking the difficulty of those games, that was Watford at home, which we won, Hull away, which we won, Derby at home, which we won, Portsmouth away, which we drew, Swansea at home, won, Luton at home, won, Borough away, lost, Stoke at home, we won, Bristol City away, we won, Wednesday at home, we won, and then the last time they played together was Coventry away, which resulted in a draw, but also 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎 being sent off just before half-time. Now, the second most used partnership that United have had this season is Harry Souttar playing with Jack Robinson. Now, again, for this one, I'm not going to count the second half against Coventry. That's not fair to them because they were playing with 10 men and that was just backs to the wall constantly. So it would be unfair to include that in these numbers. So together, Souttar and Robinson played 6.5 games because, of course, Harry Souttar was sent off at half-time against Sunderland. And so it's skewing the numbers a little bit. But across their 6.5 games, United kept 5.5 clean sheets, and they only conceded 2 goals during that time. That's an average of 0.31 per game. It's marginally more than the Souttar and 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗎 partnership had conceded, but it's negligible. Basically, when Souttar was playing with either of those 2 partners, United conceded around 0.3 goals per game. During that time when it was Robinson and Souttar, United picked up a red card, obviously, with Souttar being sent off, but also conceded a penalty. That was the one that Jack Robinson gave away. In fact, the red card was also in the same game against Sunderland at Bramall Lane, but we did win that with a clean sheet from Michael Cooper. So they got a little bit lucky, but maybe you'd say they earned that luck. When those two played together, they conceded 5.37 XG across their 5.5 games, which is an average of 0.83 per game. And again, marginal, basically exactly the same numbers that we saw when Souttar was playing with 𝗚𝗏. United won 6 of the 7 games that those two players started together. They picked up 18 points, but they did lose one game, and that was against Burnley at home. And again, that was the last game that Souttar and Jack Robinson were going to play together all season. Again, for those who want to know about the fixtures, when those two played together, we won at Blackburn, we beat Oxford at home, we beat Sunderland at home, we beat Millwall away, Plymouth at home, Cardiff away, and then, of course, the last game where we lost to Burnley. That now brings us to the end of the 𝗲𝗲 section and starting to look at the question, can you rely on a partnership of 𝗚𝗏 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝐻 and Jack Robinson in a back four? Now, so far this season, these two have played 5 games together, during which time United have only kept 1 clean sheet and they've conceded 6 goals. That's an average of 1.2 per game, which is almost 3 times the average of either of those two playing alongside Harry Souttar. We have also seen more defensive errors. I would say that we've seen, well, defensive errors leading to goals. I would say we've seen 2 come from that partnership when they've played together. Both of those being Robinson, in my opinion, the one against 𝗣𝗄𝗄, where him and Harrison Burrows got in each other's way and it allowed 𝗣𝗄𝗄 to get through to make the equaliser. And then, of course, more recently at Sunderland away, where Robinson's missed control allowed Sunderland to go through to score the opening goal. Together, when they've played the 5 games they've had together, United have conceded 5.35 XG at an average of 1.07 per game. Again, that is significantly above either of the partnerships when playing with Harry Souttar. And if you play that out over a season, you would expect a partnership of 𝗚𝗏 and Robinson to concede roughly 12 goals more than either of the partnerships between Souttar and either 𝗚𝗏 or Robinson, just to put that into a little bit of context. In games where 𝗚𝗏 and Robinson have started together, United have only picked up 8 points from 5 games, winning 2, drawing 2 and losing 1. Again, for those keeping score, wanting to look at the games, those games are Preston away, first game of the season, where United won, 𝗣𝗄𝗄 at home, where United drew 2-2, West Brom at home, where United drew 1-1. I forgot whether we were home or away for that one. Took me a minute. Sunderland away, where United lost 2-1. And then Watford away, where United won 2-1. Now, as I said at the start, United have had some other partnerships. There was a game where I think Robinson played with Gilchrist. There was the back 3 we played at Leeds. And there was a game where Souttar parted 𝗏𝗏. But I don't think any of those, being single game efforts, really give us enough data that we can work with or that we can start to look at. So, we've gone through the data. We've gone through the evidence. Let's try and answer the questions. How good has Sheffield United's defence been so far this season? The only way to answer that question is by saying it has been excellent. It is on track to be one of the best defences in Championship history, and it is a huge strength that we've got in the club at the moment, and it is a massive reason behind the success United have had to this point in the Championship. You can't say any more than that. It has been a fantastic defence, and we have to hope that we can find a way to make sure it continues even in Souttar's absence. Question number 2, how big of a loss is Harry Souttar? Well, it's huge. It's almost as huge as the man himself is, because he's obviously an absolute behemoth, but he has left a big gap in that defence. With him in the back 4, United conceded 6 goals in 18 games. So that's when Souttar was playing with 𝗚𝗏 or Robinson in a back 4, 6 goals in 18 games. At 0.3 goals per game, that breaks the record for the best defence in Championship history. And it's not actually a million miles off what Burnley's current record is. That is how good we have been when Harry Souttar has been able to play at the heart of United's defence. So the final question, and probably the most pertinent now when looking at United going forward and thinking about what business do United have to do in January, can you rely on Jack Robinson and 𝗚𝗏 𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗏 as a partnership in the centre of a back 4? It's 8 points from 5 games. It's 1.2 goals conceded per game. It is a massive drop-off from where we've been when Souttar's played. And ultimately, when you look at those stats, I don't think that you can say, yes, we can rely on them. I don't think you can say that, yes, they are good enough to make sure United snatch that second place, maybe that United win the title, because we need to make sure we've got more defensive solidity than that, and that we're picking up more points than we have done in those games. It's harsh, but that then to me means that we have to recruit in January. This is arguably the biggest priority position that I see for Sheffield United going forward. We have to replace Harry Souttar. We have to bring in a strong, physical leader to play in the centre of our defence and to get us back to those incredible numbers that we had when Harry Souttar was playing at the centre of United's defence. So there we have it. That's how I would answer those 3 questions. But please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for listening to this if you've been able to pick this up as a podcast. But let me know in the comments, how would you answer those 3 questions? Do you think I've been harsh on Robinson and Nnell? Do you think 5 games isn't enough to prove a point either way and we need to give them more time to play together? Or do you agree with me that this is a little bit of a worry for us right now, that United have to find a way to bring in another centre-half and really strengthen that defence to make sure that we are good enough to go into the end of the season and still be in automatic promotion contention, maybe even be the champions of this division this season? Thank you so much for watching. I hugely appreciate it. And as always, up the blades.
Ollie, ollie.